say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous line o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rocket's red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say, does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free, and the home of the that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free, and the home of the
Before the American Revolution, our founding fathers considered themselves slaves of the empire. And then Thomas Jefferson read John Locke. And he said that our freedom was not given us by the king. It was an unalienable right given us by God. It is irrevocable, non-transferable, and unsellable. The founders understood that, and this is why, at the end of the Declaration of Independence, they put, we pledge our lives, our fortunes, and our sacred honor. They said they would die before they'd be slaves. I won't just die before I be a slave. I'll kill before I be one. So all y'all out there to say you have no choice, what the founders showed you. It was Patrick Henry that said, give me liberty or give me death. And on that fateful night when George Washington had to cross the Delaware River in the ice and the snow, or the American Revolution would be lost, they said, General, what are the passwords? He said, victory or death. Either we're successful tonight or we all die. That's the idea of a free man. And I am a free man. So all you out there that believes that someone has to give you your freedom, you're admitting that you're a slave. If you come try to take my freedom away, God has given me the right to defend myself. And I got two things that'll get you off of me. That is Jesus and my 38. Slaves is a choice.
Grace and peace, you guys. Welcome back to Unshakable with April Chapman, where we discuss all things social, cultural, political, and theological from a biblical perspective. I'm your host, April Chapman, and welcome to tonight's live stream. You guys, please accept my apologies. I was watching the live chat, and you guys are absolutely right. President Trump is supposed to give his speech from the Oval Office tonight at 9 p.m. And I am like 20 minutes out and I'm mad because now I'm live and I done planned this like super jam-packed show and I'm going to miss his remarks. So I will just have to catch it on the replay. I don't know what I was thinking. Normally I would go live on a Friday night, but tomorrow is out of pocket. I got a doctor's appointment, a hair appointment, and if you know anything about Black women and our hair appointments, it's going to be a minute. So by the time I get back, I figured it would be too late to do a live stream. So I'm doing tomorrow's live stream tonight. So tonight's show, as you can see on the thumbnail, we're going to talk about, I've noticed something. At first, I couldn't put my finger on it, and I said, why is this Nolan Wells case? Why are they making this a thing? And then I realized it. I said, self, the ideological activation of the Iron Triangle is upon us. I said, that's what this is. And so I saw some of you guys talking in the live chat about the Iron Triangle. But if you are unfamiliar with that term, Vince Everett Ellison, he uses it to describe this alliance between the Black preacher, the Black civil rights operative, and the Black political class. Now, he's not talking about all Black preachers, obviously, or all Black he might be talking about all Black civil rights workers, okay? And then the Black political class, it's the Marxist Democrat political class that he is talking about. And when he talks about the Iron Triangle, each component of this relationship, it supplies something that the others need. So the preacher gives the political narrative. He lends it spiritual legitimacy. Despite the narrative that they're usually pushing being diametrically opposed to the word of God, they push it anyway. Then you have the civil rights operative. Sorry, something is just flew in my eye. Is that a hair or a piece of lint? I don't know what that is. But the civil rights operative, they play a role too. They will turn, as you can see and are about to see tonight, they will turn any individual tragedy and it becomes this collective racial grievance. So one isolated incident that happened in one particular community, they will gravitate to it and push a narrative to make you believe that no, collectively, we've got to be outraged. We must be upset. This can't possibly be an accident or a disagreement amongst friends. No, it must be because he's Black. Nolan Wells, that is. And so the political class, the politicians, they harvest the fear, the outrage, all of the racial solidarity. They corral all of that with the end goal being the ballot box. It's all they have. You know, Democrat policies are simply trash. So to get you to vote for them, the Black community is real easy to work over. Okay. Unlike, the white liberal, sadly, the strength of the resilient white American has waned over the past couple of years, and we see more and more of them leaning into socialism and wanting the free stuff. And I'm like, where did y'all learn this from? Because that is not the American way. So I don't know if the white liberal is learning about the free stuff from the Blacks or the Blacks are learning about the free stuff from the white liberals. But I will say this, the Democrats because their policies are trash and they do not work. To get you to vote for them, they have to engage in the race foolishness. And sadly, you really don't have to do much. Like, you don't have to send an email titled Operation Exploit Nolan Wells. No, well, I take that back. Actually, sometimes they actually do send an email. Like, we saw evidence of this during the pandemic. Not sure if many of you remember, I did like a post-COVID autopsy of the Black church operatives that were all parroting the same talking points surrounding COVID, and all of the Democrat Black preacher operatives were all parroting the very same message. And I showed the email that they got. They got the directive from the DNC to tell the congregation, this is what you need to say to encourage compliance in your congregation. So they have all sorts of tactics, but mere ideological alignment alone, it can produce a coordinated message without a publicly documented conference call. Now, they do the conference calls. They do the Zoom calls. They had the Black Church Pack with Kamala Harris. They know the script, though. They know their roles. They've been playing it for so long. And so when the proper racial conditions appear, everybody gets into place. They hit their marks like they've been rehearsing since Ferguson. And please believe, oh yes, everybody gets a check. They don't do this for free. They're not that benevolent. No, they don't do it for free. There's absolutely a pot of gold at the end of the rainbow. So tonight, my argument, it's not that legitimate questions about Nolan Wells' death should be ignored. Absolutely, they should not be ignored. His family deserves answers. I believe that every credible lead should be investigated. My argument, though, is that Democratic aligned and Democratic controlled racial activists, they have ideologically activated the signal, the bat signal for the Avengers of all things racial grievance has gone out. And like I said, the iron triangle, the Black preacher, the Black civil rights operative, and the Black political class, they convert, their job is to convert an unresolved tragedy, because we still are trying to get details and figure out what's going on. They take that and they turn it into a racially charged political narrative. And notice how they do it right ahead of the midterms. Like, y'all think that's a coincidence? I'm sorry. It's not a coincidence. But the question you need to ask yourself is why? Why do they do this? I can break it down and I can explain it. However, I don't believe in reinventing the wheel. If you've not read The Iron Triangle, I have linked that book in the chat. It's pinned to the chat. I want you to go ahead and order it. You need to order it because you're missing out. And that book is literally the handbook of all things pulpit pimpery, political exploitation, and fake civil rights activism. And it's packaged up in a nice little book, right? And it's packaged up because it's designed to usher and keep Black people enslaved to the Democrat Party. And so Vince lays out in his book, and he mentions something in particular. I've got a few quotes before we get into some clips that I wanted to share with you guys, because he says in the book that there is a common saying in the Black community, and it's this: most Black preachers talk Black, live white, and think green. I was like, dang, that's pretty powerful. What you mean by that, Brother Vince? And when I realized it, he is saying, for example, I'll give a quick anecdotic example. Let's take the pulpit pimp, Jamal Bryant, for example. When he says that the Black preachers talk Black, they know the colloquialism and the language to appeal to the demographic of the Blacks. They talk like you talk. They speak the way you speak. They're up and hip to all of the latest cultural influences, and they know how to be culturally relevant so that they can relate to you. But when they live white, they not living near y'all. No, they don't educate their children where your children go to school. No, they are aloof. They are separate and apart, right? We have evidence where Jamal Bryant has basically asserted that his children, they've not been publicly educated. They've gone to the best elite private schools and have been educated amongst the social higher echelon, right? Not with, your blacks. They don't, he didn't do that. He made a different choice for himself. But they live white in the sense, here's what I'm not saying. I'm not saying that black people cannot live in opulence or be affluent and that all white people live that way. But there's this aspiration of a life that they want to live because they're not settled in what they believe that they can achieve and just say, well, I've achieved this. No, the comparison is always the white man, right? His water and his ice is always colder. His bus is always better. His neighborhood is just, it's just not, it ain't like yours. It's just the coveted one that you want, as opposed to you just kind of working and improving your own. But anyway, that's a conversation for another day. But think green. Don't miss that part. They will, the other two, talking black and living white, but thinking green, meaning money is always on their mind. Okay, there is not anything that they are unwilling to do. I mean, nothing that they won't do. They will sell their own people out. These bad actors they come preloaded, morally compromised. Usually, as you're going to see tonight, I'm going to show y'all a clip, very ignorant. And I'm not saying that to be inflammatory. That is literally, if you heard Ben Crump speak, you'll know exactly what I mean. I'm sorry, I got to show the clip. But these individuals, them, your Jamal Bryants, your Al Sharptons, your Jasmine Crockett's, they represent the worst of the worst. I mean, the bottom of the barrel. But they're useful. They are useful because they are willing to sell out their own people for a bottle of liquor and a pork chop sandwich. Yes, that combination, sometimes not in that order, but it may be a different configuration, but the point is still the same. They sell their congregations like a cheap prostitute for votes. They don't care if the worldview that they're pushing is bad and is going to lead you to hell. It doesn't matter. They think green. And one of the main poison pills that they sell time and time again, I can write the script. It is the endless cauldron of racism. They just sit and they be stirring it on a low. They cook it slow and low on a low flame, and they stir it up just like it's witch's brew, right? The racism, it's behind every door, everywhere you look. It's under every rock, every nook, every cranny. You simply can't escape it. Let them tell it. They do this because they want you scared. They want you confused, looking over your shoulder for the white boogeyman. Everywhere you go, he's right there. They want you victimized. And most of all, they want you dependent. Yes, the dependent part is necessary. That's where it ultimately leads to dependence on government by way of the Democrat Party. So, as you guys know, this is an election year, right? Like, midterms is coming up in November. A midterm that's particularly super important. We've just had two senators. Well, I was going to say two senators pass. I'm sorry. Lindsey Graham has just passed. The verdict, we don't know what's going on with Mitch. Has anybody checked on Mitch? Is there signs of life? I don't know. Let's say a prayer for his family. It's just a very, we don't, our majority in terms of the GOP versus the Democrat is waning thin. And so this midterm is super important because you have election integrity on the line. All of the black Marxist Democrats are losing their power because of the redistricting that's happening in the South. They've been crashing out from that for months. So the Democrats are desperate. It's an election year. So what do Democrats need in an election year when they see their power weakening? They got to call them dogs out. They need the big dogs. They report the big dogs, to their usual race hustle, because they know that there is this certain segment of blacks that no matter what, I hate to say it and talk about it like this, but it's true. They know they can count on a certain percentage of blacks that if they can rile them up, get them distracted on the latest race hoax, they can count on that demographic to get them souls to the polls. Why? Because racism. That's it. No other reason. I mean, they might throw in some free stuff, but the racial grievance industry in these stories, it's really about the racism, right? Because racism is the greatest existential threat that America is facing right now. Y'all didn't know? Y'all didn't get the memo? Yeah. Let them tell it. The whites are just after you. Everywhere you look, they just won't leave you alone. Right? The whites is just, they won't let you worship in peace, eat in peace, bathe in peace, read in peace, drive in peace. The white folks are just after you, according to them. Now, of course, I don't believe that, but let them tell it. I'm like, I think y'all secretly, y'all love white folks. Either that or you just want to be them, because they just can't be at peace unless they are talking about the white folks bothering them. But I'm like, nobody's bothering you. You're not even bothering you. You're just making it up. But anyway, that brings me to this Nolan Wells case. So I've been trying to stay abreast of what's going on. And here's what I've noticed. Before the autopsy and the toxicology findings, which have not even been released, I mean, we're waiting on them, right? Before the cell phone examination is complete, before evidence has been established that a homicide has occurred, much less a racial motivation, what did we see? We saw the Race Avengers, like dun dun dun, Al Sharpton, Ben Crump, Jamal Bryant, Jasmine Crockett. They even threw in a little D.L. Hughley and their whole media allies. They're already invoking the white suspicion. They pulled on the Mississippi, its racial history. They threw Donald Trump in there. And don't forget that part. That part matters, and we're going to come back to that. They have pulled in the Justice Department, George Floyd, Michael Brown, Breonna Taylor, and the supposed dangers of interracial socializing. I dropped the video earlier today where another brain dead moron was talking about how she has to talk to her son about the white friends that he has, and basically she's having second thoughts, and they can't do no sleepovers. You know, they could just be friends at school, but that's the extent of it. So what are we covering tonight? Well, the thesis of this live stream, I am going to examine all of the public messaging, and I'm going to ask whether Nolan Wells as a case is, or his memory, I would say, is being transformed from a young man who no one disputes deserves truth, or if he's being turned into the latest black sacrificial lamb needed to frighten the blacks. You got to get them black voters out. They want to frighten black voters back onto the Democrat Party's ideological plantation, because too many of y'all ninjas tried to run and jump ship. And many of you, because your worldview was not grounded in an objective standard of truth, you might be having second thoughts about running away, and you think about going back to master. I distinctly remember when I read Up From Slavery, which is Booker T. Washington's autobiography. He talked about when emancipation came, how excited everybody danced a jig well into the night. Him, his mama, and his siblings all packed up to make their way from their plantation to West Virginia to be reunited with his father. And he talks about how at first everybody was excited about freedom until the reality of what freedom meant hit them like a ton of bricks. And so many of them, one by one, went right on back to Massa to work out an arrangement to see if they could figure out a way. Can we stay? Massa, you've been so good to us, and we thought we wanted freedom. We thought long and dreamt about it, and we we were scrimping and scraping for the day that freedom would come. And now that it's come, so much unknown out there in that big world that I don't know about. So is there any way we can come back to the plantation? I come work for you. Be your maid. Listen, that's real. I'm not making that up. That is not hyperbole. That is a firsthand account of a slave, an emancipated one, of his childhood memory of at 9 years old. He could see how freedom was desired until they understood what it cost. So what we're going to talk about tonight is how the Democrat operatives, in my opinion, they have sent out the bat signal. And this is why your Ben Crumps, your Al Sharptons, your Jasmine Crockett's, and so many of the Democratic left operatives, all in unison, are trying to push this Nolan Wells situation, and they're trying to make it about race. And what I want to do is I want to examine legitimate questions versus the manufactured conclusions. Okay? So that's the first thing that I want to do. So, before I show some clips, here is what remains unknown, meaning we do not know. We do not know the official cause and manner of death yet. However, there's been so many narratives concocted around what has happened to where folks just know. They know without a shadow of a doubt what happened, even though the official cause and manner of death has not been revealed. We still have no information on the toxicology findings. We just don't have it. So it's kind of hard to make assumptions based off of speculation when we don't know. We still do not have an independent autopsy finding from either the official one or the independent one. We do not have complete cell phone forensics. We do not have Nolan's confirmed final movements. I did see some information kind of come out today that was alluding that they knew it, but I've not seen a press conference from the authorities, the law enforcement authorities in that jurisdiction. We have no information as to whether a crime at all has occurred, whether any racial motivation existed. And the reason why I'm bringing this up is because an unanswered question is not evidence for whichever answer Al Sharpton is going to get the most airtime from. So here's one thing I want to do. I want to show you guys some clips. Let me do this. I don't think that's the first clip that I want to show. But what I want to do is I want to show you this interview that Al Sharpton completed on TMZ. And it's very interesting about how this interviewer with TMZ is going to build an entire racial framework. And we're going to listen closely to how the interviewer leads the narrative. Take a listen.
What was your reaction when you heard and when you learned that Nolan Wells had been found 6 days after he had been reported missing on that boat on the 4th of July?
I was, first of all, stunned at the fact that this young man is going out, he and 3 friends, he black, they white, and a day later, his mother and them start searching for him. No one comes forward. And then they find out after 2 days that they claim his body was washed up and that he'd given his cell phone and his keys to one of the 3 friends, saying he didn't want to go back from Horn Island with them. Well, first of all, it's very, very unlikely for most 18-year-olds to ever give up their cell phone.
Can I just stop this and say, somebody need to tell Al, turn that darn filter off. Turn the Zoom filter off, sir. You out here looking like a whole cartoon character. Your head is already big. the filter on Zoom is so disrespectful. Just turn it off. It's not working. Just as much as you are out here faking and stoking racial hatred that ain't real, us believing that your skin is that smooth and your hands is not real, nobody believes that. So can someone just send a note to National Action Network when y'all set Sharpton up in these Zooms, turn that filter off or at least turn it down, because he out here looking crazy. He looks like a cartoon character.
But if you're going to stay on an island that nobody's there other than up, and that is why Ben Crump and National Action Network and I got involved. The real unfortunate part is with this present administration in Washington, Donald Trump, you can't even say, as we've said historically, whether it was from Abner Louima in the 90s to George Floyd a couple of years ago, we'll go get the feds. You can't get this Justice Department. What we can do, though, is go to state court and sue and depose these young men on what they were doing. So there's going to be a legal strategy that Ben Crump, who's the best at it, will do. I'm going to continue to stand with the family and mobilize people around the country so that this does not go off the minds of the American public.
Reverend Sharpton, do you think race played a role in this case? We actually, on our TMZ Live show, had one of Nolan's friends, a young African-American male, and we asked him the same question, and he felt uncomfortable to answer. He didn't want to answer the question, but with what we're seeing, like you said, Nolan was a young black man out on a boat with three white people, and the majority of the people on that island were white. Do you think race is playing a role in this case, and do you think race will play a role in the outcome of this case?
I will say this. I do not know that race played a role, but I do not know race did not play a role. So I think you've got to put all of that on the table. How does anybody say that, oh, no, race played no role, unless you know the three guys, and the three guys were forthcoming? I certainly think you got to look at the possibility of racism at different levels. One, were any of the three guys racist? All right. Two, were the prosecutors and the enforcement when the body was found? Is there a racial double standard there? Many of us feel that there were three black guys and a white kid was missing, they would have held them probably in custody and certainly had them seriously under scrutiny on if it was the reverse, in our opinion. But the family has said they don't want to say race, but they don't want it taken off the table.
Here's something interesting that I wanted to note. He is right. The family has asserted, and you could tell when this question is asked, the family tends to, their body language gets very uncomfortable. It's almost as if they know that they are being used and the death of their son is being propagandized for these people's benefit right here, because they keep saying, I don't know, I'm not sure. It's almost like they want to say, I really don't think it has anything to do with race. But what do these do? These Negroes right here always loop it back. No. Yes, it is. We can't rule it out. It's a possibility. And we just, we just want to be sure and make sure that it's not, because it could be, because you never know. Here's the first thing I want to do. Analyze how she leads this narrative. And the first thing that Al Sharpton says was, he black, they white. Okay. Nolan was black. His companions were white. That is objectively true. Then they go, well, most people on the island were white. Well, there were black people there too. What they want you to think that it was just, this is Get Out, where it's just one black guy surrounded by all these white young people. And so the question is, well, because Nolan's black and there were white people there, could race have played a role? He's leading and trying to get you to think it is just part of a larger pattern. Notice how he talked about, did I write it out? He mentioned, how can we say it's not race? How do we know that these three boys are not racist? I'm like, So we just go straight. Is the assumption that all white people are racist? Because the way y'all are looking right now is lead me to believe that all black liberals are absolutely racist. Now, I did a video earlier today where I made such a broad sweeping assumption because y'all make it so easy to say it. But where is the evidence that this where this broad sweeping statement can be made that because well, you know how they are, that all young white people must be racist? Forget the fact that they have no problem having doing any sort of interracial socializing and treating black kids as their equal and vice versa. No one inserts this mess into the narrative but these old civil rights operatives who have racial hatred in their heart and who cannot let go of the fact that their civil rights operation of the 1960s drove black people to the bottom. But they want you to believe that what they were fighting for and what they were advocating for has actually helped us when it hasn't. Why? Look at the outcomes. Ever since they inserted their grubby paws, begging to sit next to white people and begging for the government to recognize our humanity, what has happened? Black family decimated, completely decimated. Educational outcomes in the pit. Our out of wedlock rates are up. Our abortion rates are up. Our illiteracy rates are up. And the wealth gap, Lord have mercy. We were on track, on pace to catch up to our white counterparts. But instead, you turned black folks into independent, free-minded individuals who were learning how to function in their freedom, and you turned them into a community of beggars, begging for government's help to be dependent on the government. And then you're confused that there's a wealth gap. Well, when you teach them to be dependent and not to do for themselves, yeah, that's typically what happens. When you make them believe that they are inferior, not that they are, but just make them believe that they're inferior by always comparing what you have to what the white man has, he loses his will to try to do for himself, and instead he spends more time striving to be like the white man and abandoning his sense of being able to advance and achieve because he spent too much time being grieved and not working. So I'm gonna let him finish some more because we're gonna break, y'all. I got a whole bunch of slides prepared for y'all. We're gonna break down all of the logical fallacies, but I gotta let him get it out first.
How do we know, particularly when you have a sheriff saying there was no foul play?
So just because the sheriff said there was no foul play, well, you must be racist. How do you make such an illogical leap? These people do this for a living, especially near this island where there's drownings that happen all the time. They're like, okay, at first glance, it didn't appear to be any foul play, but yes, we're going to do an investigation. Why do you jump from that to, well, you're a racist? Wait, what? How do we get here? This is what actually impedes an investigation. They want a sacrificial lamb. They are out here like in the scarlet letter, and they just, you're a racist, Everybody gonna be strung up and lynched. This whole community, they're gonna destroy and decimate this community when they get through with them. If the people in this community don't rise up and push back against this is not the time to be a coward. This is not the time to be worried about, well, they're gonna call me racist. You better stand up and be a man and be like, I'm sick and tired of your two-bit race hustle that you done brought down here. We were down here living and thriving and getting together before you got here. We're not going to allow you to hijack this narrative. We're going to do a full and thorough police investigation. And wherever the facts lead, that's where they're going to be. That's what this sheriff and the whole municipality should have just stood up to this pulpit pimp, two-bit hustler, and told them where to go and how to get there. Yes, come with all your questions. We're going to answer all your questions. But because of the tension that has been stoked ever since the Obama administration, I'm going to say this and y'all going to get mad, but you'll be all right. I'm trying to understand, when did white people get so weak? When do you start allowing these people to terrorize you and bully you? I'd be like, wait, you got me messed up. First of all, you do not know me. How can you just assume that I'm racist? You're just making this assumption. Is that how you view the world? Why does it cloud your judgment against, like, you can't examine anything without inserting race into it. It's because this comes from a sinful and envious and a heart that's full of malice and hatred. And the object of it happens to be on the basis of ethnicity. So he mentioned, y'all remind me if did he mention Trump yet? Because we got to talk about that part. But what does his messaging and the narrative and the framework that he is trying to set up here, you know, the message that it's sending? It's supposed to make you ask yourself, well, should Black parents fear interracial socializing? Because, you know, you can never be too sure. You can't really be too safe. I mean, one Black guy and 3 whites. It must be race if something happens.
Do you see this as an isolated incident or something that's becoming a part of a larger pattern? We've started to see, I know it's a kind of a different case, but like Carmelo Anthony with the race and all that, this stuff. Do you think that these situations where these young Black kids, I will say, you know, teenagers, young adults, if you will, are hanging out with majority of white people, and then something bad happens to them, and then all of a sudden nobody knows anything? Do you think this is an isolated incident?
I am beginning to see a pattern.
Do you see how she framed that? We have Carmelo Anthony, and then we have this. And it's not just because the interactions between them was Black guy and white guy, and then something bad happens. That is how she framed it. And then this fool's gonna respond, well, you know, I am seeing a pattern. So you got 2 incidences that happen to happen within an election year that under normal circumstances would nobody be talking about. But is it really a pattern, or you're trying to make a pattern where one doesn't exist? Which one is it?
I think that I hear parents in National Action Network. I hear parents that call my radio show saying, I'm telling my kids, don't go out with other people. I mean, people are just...
Notice how he said don't go out with other people, but he didn't specify the kind of people. But the conclusion you're supposed to draw is, oh, we shouldn't let our kids go out with white people. He's claiming, you know, people that's calling National Action Network and calling his show. Yes, the people that are still ignorantly listening to you, it's brain rot. They are hypnotized and just completely sold out. Do y'all remember? Y'all may not remember, before the Lord saved me, back in 2008, when I was working in the insurance industry, I used to listen to this man's show every afternoon on my lunch break. I would be in the car listening to Reverend Al. And here's the dichotomy of something that stupid. I'm from New York, and my mother couldn't stand Al Sharpton. She saw right through his race hustle with the Tawana Brawley case and all the other cases that never proved to really be racially motivated, but how he stoked the flames of racism anyway. I used to remember hearing my mother talk about him and how trifling he was. And that was always on the forefront of my mind. But when he had his radio show, I even called into his radio show once because it was something about, I was in my pro-blackity black phase, and he would say something true, and then in the next breath, I'd be like, that's really stupid and ignorant. Why would he say that? And it was kind of like I was chewing the meat and spitting out the bones, but I wasn't necessarily enjoying the meal, but I felt like I needed to eat this meal because I'm Black and I'm a Democrat, and you have to listen to Al Sharpton because he's Black and he's a Democrat, and Republicans are racist. So even if I know he's a con artist, and even if I know he says some things that half the time when I'm using the brain that the good Lord gave me, I know it doesn't make sense, I was still listening to it anyway. I said, Father, Lord, I know I was dead in my sin and trespasses. Thank you for saving, and not just delivering me and granting me the gift of salvation, but thank you for reorienting my worldview and giving me a new heart and a new mind. To now when I listen to him, I'm like, you're just retarded. Like, it's so clear to me now. But I was a young mom and I'm just trying to find my way in the world. And I was working for an agent that I really didn't care for too much. And this man was nothing but kind to me. I'm talking whatever accommodation that I asked for, he granted it. This was when working from home wasn't even a thing. Like, remote work was very, very hard because you had to log in and get access to the secured system. It wasn't very, very simple. This man spent so much money because I had just had a baby and I was his top producer in his office. And he did not want me to leave. He was like, what is it gonna take? What do I need to give you the perfect work-life balance? Name it. I said, I need to work from home 3 days a week. He was like, okay, fine. We'll do it. We'll get you a laptop. We'll set the house, the phone so that the calls can be routed to you, and you'll only have to come in 2 days a week. And every time I would ask for something, he would give it to me. And in my mind, I always had this partiality in my heart toward him because I was like, he's white. There's no way this white man is just gonna be so nice and kind to me. It must be something else. The ignorance and the arrogance that used to fill my heart. And I'm like, this man ain't really did nothing to me. When I had my baby, he was like, look, we'll get the first life policy. I'll pay you commission on the policy you sell. He was always making concessions, giving me long lunch breaks, whatever it took to keep me happy and satisfied, because I was that good and he didn't want me to go nowhere. And still, I would always find, it's because I'm black. It's because you white. There was always this distrust. That was the sinfulness in my heart that the Lord managed to save me from, in addition from my other filthy, wretched sin. Praise Jesus.
Naturally becoming very apprehensive. And we shouldn't have to live like this. And unless there is a signal sent from the justice system that do some real justice in these cases, they will only intensify people's fear of even having social settings with people of different races.
I can't. This man is implying, when he says we need the government to step in and give justice, he's not talking about biblical justice. He's give us the outcome that we want, which is white person bad, black person good, even in the absence or in the face of evidence. We don't care. Just give us the verdict and the outcome that we want, or else we're going to keep stoking these flames of racial hatred, and it's just going to be distrust. Like the blacks, we just not going to trust you white folks till y'all give us the verdict that we want. Oh, this man. Oh, I'm going to let him finish and then I'm going to cook. I ain't even started cooking yet, y'all.
Their children.
Are there any unanswered questions you think investigators still need to answer in this case that they have not publicly answered so far?
I think they need to answer why they didn't go get the phone and the keys. Why did it have to be his father run it down? I think they have to answer why they immediately said there was no foul play. I think they have to answer, have they interrogated the 3 young men? I think they have to answer where there's a reported a video of the young men and him being Nolan arguing, and he said something about his freaking phone. Well, what is on that tape? What are they arguing about? And how did you not question them about the argument? There's a lot of things that law enforcement would have to answer.
So the assumption is because they've not told Al that these questions have not been levied or asked yet. I'm of the opinion, and I could be wrong, I don't know this to be true, but I think this municipality, they see the direction that these civil rights race hustlers are trying to take this case, and they are purposely refraining from releasing their investigative findings, because at the end of the day, it's like it doesn't matter what we release, they're going to reframe it and gaslight the public and demand somebody's head on a platter. And so they're probably trying to outsmart them. And cumulatively, when they get all of their findings and compile their report to lay it all out, to give the public the answers to the questions that we have. Because believe me, I have questions too. But the question is, why is it that TMZ, they didn't just merely interview Al Sharpton? Oh no, they've laid out the racial railroad tracks and invited him to drive the grievance train. And he is choo-choo chucking along it like his usual self, like he always does. And so I'm going to let the last little bit of this interview play, and then we're going to get to some slides, because I'm going to break down all of the fallacies and his illogical leaps in argumentation. We're going to break them all down.
What do you say to some of these young adults that have that you know say they know Nolan? There's one specifically, Trayston Shepard, who went on Good Morning America, and he basically contradicted the Wells family and basically said that the video that we've seen of a young man yelling in an altercation was not Nolan, that it was him. And he basically said that everyone that was with Nolan that day did no wrong, and he does not understand why they are getting so much hate behind Nolan's death. Says no one wanted to see him die. What do you have to say to these friends who he basically said we just need to all relax and mourn, is what he said.
I think that rather than do an interview on ABC, he ought to be doing an interview with the police.
How does he know that that hasn't happened? See, notice how, mind you, this young man that they're referring to is black. And he's like, you were doing reputational harm here, but you don't care about anybody else's reputation. All you care about is your grift. So instead of him engaging with what the young man said, and instead of you being on Good Morning America, you need to be interviewed by the police. Well, that was my argument. Why are the parents all the way up in New York in person? They should be grieving. I can flip it and make the same argument too. But it doesn't change the facts that you are not allowing the police to do their job in their investigation, because you're trying to get ahead of it and shape a whole narrative in order to incite the racial violence and to get Black people to distrust more. Bring Trump into this whole discussion, and we're going to talk about that, so that this can accomplish your Democrat operative ends, which is we cannot lose any more of the grip that we've had on the electoral serfs known as the Black vote. We got to keep and preserve as much as we can, because if we lose them, we are done. And they've been bleeding voters in droves, and they know it. They need this. They need this like their life depends on it, because it does.
Under oath and being warned, if you lie, it's a crime. How does he know what happened any more than I know, unless he was there when whatever happened that led to the fatality of Nolan?
He didn't say he was there. What he did was debunked one of the many lies that you and the old thick-tongued, educable, mentally retarded Ben Crump said, which was, the guy in the video, that's not even Nolan. That is me. But he won't engage with that. He immediately shifts, well, how do you know what happened unless you were there? This man is so darn trifling.
He was there. I mean, so to get people to try and tamp this down is possibly perjuring themselves, which is why you get people like me involved to try to put the heat on to sweat them out of their corner. How can you say, when he says it wasn't Nolan on the tape, it was him? Has he heard the tape?
Didn't I tell y'all that these people were ignorant?
He heard the tape. Was he under oath when he heard the tape? I mean, they only set themselves up for more serious questions.
What should be prioritized next in this case?
I think the priority must be we must have an independent autopsy, which we have done, and we're waiting on the toxicology report. And we must have an impartial, independent investigation. Certainly, the family, and I think with real reason, do not trust the local authorities that already determined there was no foul play. And I think that we need to have independent prosecutor investigate the case, and we need a toxicology report as we prepare for a funeral that is going to be devastating for this family.
Which he's officiating, by the way. Lord have mercy. The Lord will be, if you think you're going to hear a gospel-centered eulogy, I am telling you, this is so sad. Nolan's funeral is going to be a Democrat Party election interference, get out the vote rally. That's what this is going to be. And his family, it may not be today, it may not be tomorrow, it may not be on the day of the funeral, but they are going to look back and reflect at the tomfoolery that's going to happen at that funeral, and they're going to realize we've been had, we've been hoodwinked. These people are exploiting our grief and our pain. And they've convinced them that this is necessary for the cause. Do it for your people. Forget the fact that this is your son's memory and we're turning it into a circus. The sacrifice that you are making for the future democracy of this nation matters more than the life that your son lived. This is so disgusting. Here's what we got to do. What I want to do now is I want to prepare you guys. I have some slides that we're going to go over. There was so much racial priming, appeal to normality, premature conclusions, a false dilemma. Like so many things happen. So let's break down all of these things. I've got about 10 of them. That first claim that he made, he black, they white. We're going to call that fallacy racial priming. I know I'm looking over here, but over there is where the words are, but it's just the way my camera is. But know that I'm talking about this over here, even though I'm looking here. What the evidence actually supports. Race is known, yes. Nolan is black. The young men he was with were white. Yes, there were other blacks involved too, but that doesn't matter. All you need to do is focus on the he black, they white, okay? A racial motive is not known. There's been no evidence to support that, but they're going to keep driving it and jamming it home until you're convinced that it must be. I don't need evidence. I know white folks. That's what they want you to do. They want you to be convinced in your own mind that you don't need the evidence because you know you are the third member of the Trinity. You can discern the thoughts and hearts and intentions of the white man. That's what they want you to believe. Race is a fact. Motive, however, requires evidence. Unanswered questions absolutely justify an investigation, not a pre-selected racial conclusion. That is fallacy number one. Fallacy number two. Well, you know, teenagers don't give up their phones. This fallacy is called appeal to normality. The evidence supports the fact that an unusual choice warrants inquiry. Yes, okay, that is strange. Why didn't he have his phone? Let's explore that further. Let's see what kind of evidence that we can gather to explain or support this. What he does is automatically makes you guilty because you know that's just not normal. Unusual does not mean criminal. There's so many other explanations that he could have appealed to, but those were inconvenient. So he had to appeal to the, that's just not normal. There must be some foul play happened. Once again, unanswered questions justify an investigation, not a pre-selected racial conclusion. Fallacy number 3. Well, everything was erased. Fallacy here, premature conclusion. What the evidence actually supports. The joint forensic phone review isn't complete yet.
Flag on the play.
No, it hasn't even been complete. But look at the conclusions that the brain dead morons keep coming to. The joint forensic phone review is not complete. So what is this that we should learn from this? Forensics first, conclusions second. They've inversed that, collapsed the categories, and they're like, no, we're going to draw conclusions first. And then if, the forensics prove that we were wrong, we're not going to retract. We're just going to act like that never happened because that's in the past. Just like so many of the Facebook posts that Ben Crump has already put up that have been debunked and proven. Has he gone back to correct the record? No. All he said was, we were just putting up posters. We had it. We hadn't vetted nothing. We hadn't vetted anything. They did that on purpose. They're trying to stoke the flames of racial hatred. This is all a part of the Democrat Party's midterm election interference strategy. I don't care if you're like, April, what evidence do you have of that? History. This is what they do. It's called pattern recognition. Fallacy number 4. Here's the claim. Either these people are policing or covering up. This is the false dilemma. Here's what the evidence shows. Mistakes, caution, or withheld details remain possible. No one is saying that it can't. 2 options were offered, but more exist. But Al doesn't want you to think about those. The only other option is, well, either they're policing or they got to be covering up something. You know nothing. The problem is they're probably not telling you everything because they don't trust you, because they've already seen how you've turned this into a daggone circus. Fallacy number 5. Here's the claim. I don't know, race didn't play a role. Then, dummy, you're arguing from ignorance. That's what this fallacy is called. Not disproved does not mean evidence supported. The burden is to prove, not to disprove. How are you making this illogical leap by saying, I don't know that race played a role, but I'm not ruling it out? You've already made the determination. You're arguing from ignorance. There have been no facts or evidence to point or support. In fact, more people have said, from the coach to his classmates to the people on the island, was like, I don't really understand why this is being turned into something racially motivated. But you think that's going to stop the pro-wokety woke blackity black crowd from pushing that element? No. They needs it. They needs it. Here's the next claim. If the races were reversed, here it is. The goal is to make you think that no matter what you do, you are always just behind the 8 ball. Him can't never get no justice. The black man, that is. Because the deck is always stacked up against you. It's always some nefarious intent. Nothing's ever your fault. This fallacy is called the unproven counterfactual fallacy. Here's what the evidence actually supports. No properly matched comparison case is supplied. Imagined disparity is not proven disparity, meaning they can't point to any other parallel or apples to apples case that would prove that if the roles were reversed, this would be handled different. They have no evidence of it. They just say it. It's assumed. In the melanated-minded Marxist Negro's brain, this is how they think. You don't need evidence to support your assertion. You just say it, and you say it confidently too, and they'll believe it. Because logical, argumentation and saying, okay, well, what evidence do I have to support that? You don't need it. It's all from emotion. That's where it comes from. You don't need facts. No, facts are tricky things. Number 7, the claim is you had George Floyd, you had Michael Brown, you had Breonna Taylor and the Luima guy. This is the fallacy of historical association. Where am I going? I'm just running away like a runaway train. I'm sorry, y'all. The evidence actually supports past cases provide no evidence in Nolan Wells' death. But does that stop them from appearing to the historical association fallacy? No, because what it's designed to do is make you think about, oh, that poor George Floyd just whining and crying and groveling and begging for his mama while he is high with that white man's knee on his neck. It was shameful. Forget the fact. Y'all ain't gonna like, I know y'all don't like when I call him a crackhead criminal, but I'm not saying he deserved to die. What I am saying is that George Floyd succumbed to a fentanyl overdose on his own recognizance while committing a crime and resisting arrest. That is what happened. But no, they want you to believe that it was the white man's knee on his neck. That's why they're trying to invoke your emotions and get you all riled up from all of these cases that have been proven to not have had race as a factor, but typically it was a black person committing crime where police were involved and it became a problem. And they turned it into a race hoax. Okay, we're almost done. We got 3 more. Number 8. No, I did that. Sorry. Oh, no. Where's 8? Did I repeat? I think I repeated 7. Let me get 8. Where are my overlays? Here we go. Number 8. I'm sorry. I'm not black and slow. I just read that wrong. I'm beginning to see a pattern. What fallacy is this? Hasty generalization. So, unresolved anecdotes cannot establish a trend. A pattern, thus, it's kind of by definition, a pattern requires data, not 2 headlines. But that doesn't stop Al. He's beginning to see a pattern. And we're like, you just making a generalization on the basis of what? By what standard, sir, do you see a pattern? He doesn't. He's just saying it. Okay? Number 9, the claim. Fear of interracial socializing. You can't be too trustful. You better watch your black kids around them whites. That's the hatred and the division that he wants to sow. The fallacy is called appeal to fear. No general interracial danger has been shown in this case. These kids seem like they are very comfortable around one another, hanging out with one another all the time. They grew up together, been in school together with one another. The coach was like, no, like we don't really. He was like, in my experience, I've never even seen it. I mean, this was a big black burly coach. I mean, he like looked like he was homegrown Mississippi. He like, I've never seen that. I mean, he was a great kid. We're sad. Like, all of the people they're talking to seem more interested in the fact that Nolan Wells is dead, but the racial grievance crowd keeps trying to bring in elements that have not been proven or established to make this about race. And people intimately connected in this boy's friend circle were like, no, we never saw evidence of that. Suspicion is being spread well beyond the evidence. Last one, last fallacy. The Trump DOJ won't help. This, I knew he was going to pull that Trump card. And this is what led me to believe him. And I'm going to show you Benjamin Crump both invoked the name of Donald Trump in this local case. This is when I realized, I said, this is a part of the election interference strategy, because Trump, this is a local state issue that they have made national, and they are trying to insert Donald Trump into this. And he like, I ain't got nothing. What did I do now other than exist? Their derangement shows, and this is called political scapegoating. They already know that Black folks already have Trump derangement syndrome. Not all, but a lot. Why? Because white liberals told you to hate him. They don't really, if you ask them, they will, he's just racist. And you're like, well, tell me, like, can you explain to me, like, how he's racist? They regurgitate the same recycled talking points. And you're like, but that has been debunked. Like, where have you been? Well, I just think he is. I just do. So the racial scapegoating could not be left out, because that's going to imprint in your mind. You know, we do got the election coming up. We got to make sure that we vote blue no matter who, because of Trump. Trump has to be the boogeyman. He must be the political scapegoat. The FBI, here's what the evidence actually supports. The FBI says that it's been involved in assisting since day one. Do you think they care about the truth? No. They just make this argument because they know they need a political scapegoat, and it has to be Donald Trump. The political claim right here in reality collides with the record, but it doesn't matter. These people are so dishonest that it doesn't matter. And then you have the people that follow them. These Black operatives in the Iron Triangle are so accustomed to not being held accountable that even when the political claim collides with the record, they'll never go back to correct the record. Even when, I'm going to give this TMZ host credit, she even tried to point out, like, hey, I mean, there's a few things that y'all said that has kind of been corroborated or debunked. Did he engage with it? No. All he did was hurl more accusations to move and take the attention off of the question that she asked, and to still sow more distrust. It's so Weasley and disgusting how they do it. But that is the 10th fallacy that I wanted to share with you guys. And now I got to move on to this clip. I have to move on to this clip because I'm going to demonstrate. I'm laughing now because I already know what this is. I borrowed this clip from Jason Whitlock's show. Shout out to Jason Whitlock. Before I move to this clip, though, Sharpton said a few things in this interview that I wanted to highlight. He says that he cannot prove race played a role, but he has apparently decided that everyone else must prove that it did not. That is the takeaway from that interview. He can't say that race played a role. He ain't got no evidence of it. But he just wants you to remember and believe that it might. So that the conclusion is, well, then it must be. So here, I've already shown you guys the clip of Ben Crump, one aspect of this Iron Triangle, visiting another aspect of the Iron Triangle by going to Jamal Bryant's church, Stillbirth. But before we revisit that clip, I need y'all to listen to the contempt that the white liberal has for black people, because this is the man that they elevate, and this is the man that represents and is fighting for the people. Y'all listen to this.
He can't read. This is a retard. Play the clip.
And then it goes, the gunshot wound of the head. A, the injury, proliferation of the left internal subra. Now I'm looking at this word because I know it's not subdural artery, but it's
He can't read. This is a retard. Play the clip.
and then it goes, the gunshot wound of the head. A, the injury, proliferation of the left internal subra. Now I'm looking at this word because I know it's not subdural artery, but it's
Y'all see her face? She's like, I know you lying.
He can't read.
I got to go back. You need to look at her face. Even she knows. She's like, I know you lying. It's no, this is your guy. She like, y'all done trusted. I done trusted my life in the hands of this man. This, look at her face. She like, he done looked and blinked and was just like, come on. I think I can. I think I can. The reason why I showed this, y'all, this is the contempt that the white liberal has for black people. Y'all don't believe me? Listen, the white liberal will gladly pay someone as dumb and ignorant as Ben Crump to run past interference and to push their agenda, because they know the bar is so low. And the standard of credibility is so low that you can get anybody look, this man is practically educable, mentally retarded. But they can put him as the face and the spokesperson for civil rights, and black people will buy it. It's almost like this is the elephant in the room. This lady sees it. This young man behind him sees it. Everybody is like, y'all, Ben Crump ain't that smart. He cannot read. This is, yes, it's an older clip, but he still can't read. He still cannot articulate his thoughts in a winsome fashion. You don't know what he's saying half the time. He sounds like I was going to say one generation removed from being a slave. No, he sounds like he still live on the plantation. That he has not graced the halls of an academic institution a day in his life. And he's an attorney. He's an attorney. This is the contempt. They will posture him and like, we really don't have to get anybody good. You know, forget Adam Clayton Powell type or a Thurgood Marshall type. No, we gonna scrape them from the mud. And we gonna dangle a little change. They will do something strange for some change. And this man can enter and go into a black church, appear virtually, and be received with an arousing round of applause. I was like, you white liberals are so low down, but you black folks ain't no better, because there is no way. This is how low the standard is. The bar, listen, my dog Timber might as well at this point pass the bar, and we gonna put him out to represent somebody. Listen to this clip.
These were three young white men. Nolan was the only young black man, and Reverend Bryant, had the roles been reversed, we know this investigation would be going differently. It would be like First 48. They would be interrogating those black boys. I mean, just think about it. 3 black boys and 1 white boy, and the 1 white boy end up dead. We know what kind of investigation this was, and that's why we want the same investigation for Nolan Wells now that the facts were reversed. What we are doing, and we're asking for everybody to help who can help us, and so many people around America have helped us because they look at Elmore and they look at Christine and they say, but by the grace of God, that could be my child too. And so we are asking everybody who can to try to help support them in the GoFundMe, because we don't have a Department of Justice. Normally, Reverend Bryant, you know, when we were doing Michael Brown, when President Obama and Ferguson, the DOJ came to help. When we were doing Breonna Taylor and President Biden, the DOJ came to help. But in this administration, the DOJ isn't going to offer any help to Nolan Wells. We have to do it for ourselves. So we're trying to hire as many investigators as we can. We got an independent autopsy thanks to Colin Kaepernick. We are trying to get meteorologists because...
Did y'all hear that? Yes, there are some things and some statements that he said that I need to engage with before. The last statement he said, y'all missed it. Oh, we gonna play it again. We gotta play it again. Did y'all hear what he said? Listen.
We are trying to get meteorologists.
What we trying to get, Ben? We reading, are we reading weather vanes? This man said we're trying to get meteorologists. Does anyone know what a meteorologist does? Why are you trying to get a meteorologist? This better... Did he mean to say that? I tried to stretch and say, okay, maybe he said meteorologist because he's looking for an answer as to how Nolan went missing on one day and his body washed up to shore 2 days later. But I still don't see, I mean, is the meteorologist going to give us some information about the moon and the tide and the weather patterns? And somehow it's going to be like what? Did he mean meteorologist or did he mean something else? Y'all tell me, because clearly I'm the black and slow one. This man said meteorologist, and when I heard it, I said, what? Why would the meteorologist be involved in this case? What are they gonna do? Maybe I'm just a C student, and I get it. It's above my pay grade. Forget the fact that this man sounds like the drunk homeless person in front of the gas station that got the story as to why he don't want you to take him to get something to eat, but why he needs the money. That is what he sounds like when he's speaking. He did say pregnant Biden. He sure did, Ruth. He said, and pregnant Biden. And, you know, when we had Michael Brown in the Obama administration and pregnant Biden with Breonna Taylor. But you know what? You're right. And it was determined that hands up, don't shoot was a lie. Obama put the full weight and force of the DOJ behind it, and the outcome was still the same. It was a race hoax. Same thing with Breonna Taylor. Yes, Biden rushed in, pregnant Biden, rushed in, and the outcome was still the same. Donald Trump's not an idiot. He sees right through you race hustling Negroes. He like, yeah, look, Cash Patel, you got to work that out. You ain't about, But even still, now if I was Trump, I'd be like, let's let the local authorities handle this. But he still lied. How do we know? The FBI has been involved from day one. That's federal. So why is he pushing this narrative that we ain't getting no help? Wait, I thought the white man was so racist, but you want his help. Like, which one is it? You come and you're going, you're coming, you're going. Pick a daggone struggle. You have your independent investigation. So your investigation will be compared with the local authorities' investigation in conjunction with the FBI. What you need Donald Trump involved for other than the virtue signal? He's not going to do it. Okay, he sees what this is. This is your Democrat midterm election interference campaign. So he's letting you do what you always do. Make fools of yourself. It's hard for me to let him finish, but I have to let him finish.
Because Reverend Bryant, it's not adding up. I mean, the ties are the ties. The waves are the waves. And if he went missing on July 4th, his body should have washed up on the shore July 5th.
How do you figure that? What evidence and scientific basis is Ben Crump appealing to justify that assertion? People have gone missing and their body didn't turn up till weeks later, sometimes days later. Where is the evidence that, well, if it went missing on this day, he should have seen him the next? Do you see how he makes these baseless statements? And what he's doing is he's trying to elicit the agreement of the congregation where they be like, that's right. That should be the case. And they not thinking like, well, is that always the case? Maybe we should research that, because I've heard people disappearing and sometimes they can't find the body for weeks. They have whole search and rescue teams. How do you... It's too dumb for me to argue. It just is.
They should have been able to see his body on July 5th. So why is it his body does not show up on the shore until July 6th, 2 days later? So it's a lot of things. We have to dot the I's. We have to cross the T's. We have to turn over every rock, because I know that if this was your child, you would want everybody to help you get the answers. We're in a ferocious circle.
You are absolutely right. As a mother, I just want to know what happened to my son. But as a Christian, I would completely disavow your narrative and wouldn't allow the memory of my dead son to be weaponized and used for your Democrat midterm election interference campaign. I wouldn't do it. Don't try to invoke the sensibilities and the sympathies of the fact that a set of parents have lost their son and then try to appeal with the baby violin to this congregation, because we know if it were your son, you will want everything to be investigated. No one is disputing that. No one is arguing against the fact that they need to go through everything with a fine-tooth comb. What we are pushing back against is the racial framing and the hatred narrative that you guys inserted into this, and you keep doing it. And I've just sat here and broke down 10 of your logical fallacies. I've pointed them out. I've named them. You people are dishonest, and they should be ashamed of themselves. And it worries me that the partiality and the hatred, let's just use biblical language for a minute. It is hatred in the heart that makes people distrustful of individuals on the basis of ethnicity without having any interaction with these people and just making these assumptions. Well, all white people must be this way. How would you feel if everybody said, well, all black people must be ghetto and steal and do drugs and twerk? That's what they do. You see them on the internet and how they are. Now, I ain't gonna lie. There's probably some white folks that actually, they probably think it because you give them enough evidence for them to draw that conclusion. But they at least have the human decency to not say it out loud because they're like, you know what? I've actually met some really good and decent black folks that don't act anything like that. Why is it that we won't give our white neighbors the same benefit of the doubt? Do you think I'm sitting up here saying that white people, there's just no evidence of racism at all? Of course not. Racism is a sin. It's ethnic partiality on the basis of ethnicity. It's a sin and it stems from hatred in the heart, where you hate your brother for no other cause other than the fact that, you know, they different from me. So we don't give them the benefit of the doubt, but you always want the benefit of the doubt. Why is that? Why is the first knee-jerk reaction, oh, it's racist? They need to start flipping it on y'all and watch you crash out. Why are they saying we racist? Well, what other conclusion are we supposed to come to if at every turn you claim you wanted equality and wanted to be judged by the content of your character? Well, we're doing that now. We're doing that now, and we're still coming to the same conclusion for some of y'all. That your character is trash. It has nothing to do with your color. Judge me by the color of my skin if you want to. You'll end up underestimating me at your peril. Your character will always be judged whether you wanted to or not. And in this instance, I'm making judgments, sound judgments, based on the pattern recognition and we have a long list of behaviors from these individuals that they demonstrate that they are racist and that they are anti-God and that they are anti-Christian, and they never preach forgiveness. They never preach healing because they're too busy stoking the division that precludes any sort of racial restoration or healing to take place. They don't want it healed. They don't want it ameliorated because then they won't have anything to raise money on. So they got to keep it going. Notice how he emphasized 3 white men and 1 black man. He wants you to imagine a race reversed investigation claiming, well, you know, Trump's DOJ won't help. Then the appeal for the money. They need you to dig deep. They got to raise money off of this. They start invoking Michael Brown and Breonna Taylor and all of the fundraising before the investigation is even complete. We don't even know what we're giving to. We're just giving because they need the money. What they need the money for? Well, you know, they need the money because it's racist. And so this is the iron triangle at work. Crump is not a politician, but he operates as a political operative, but in a judicial sense because he represents an arm of the law. I don't know how it happened, but he's an attorney. They just giving him out. Anybody, if he look. Anyway, here's what they're doing. This aspect of the iron triangle, Ben Crump is recruiting this aspect of the iron triangle's influence, Jamal Bryant's influence. And so the whole purpose, this is how they all work together. He has the people, a large group of blacks all corralled in one location that ideologically have been primed and trained to think a certain way. Of course, he was going to show up on Sunday and spout this racist Marxist manipulation and incantations. That's what they do. Then he announces, you know, we want to fight in the court of public opinion. Really? Is that where justice is measured out? Is that where justice, attorney, counselor? Is that where justice is adjudicated in the court of public opinion? I don't know. He's going to say it. Did he say it?
For the truth. And we're not going to stop until we get it. And Reverend Jamal Bryant, just like in all those other landmark cases where you used your influence to help us get justice, where we fight not only for truth in the courtroom, but we fight for truth in the court of public opinion. We need you yet again, New Birth. We need you all to help us get justice for Nolan Wells. God bless you, and I thank you so much. So,
I just told you. Since when is justice meted out in the court of public opinion? Since when the Democrat operatives in the form of the Iron Triangle, that's where they do it. That's where they do it. Crump didn't enter a courtroom with evidence. Where did he choose to go? He entered a church. He entered a church with a fundraising link, and it came packaged in a complete political narrative. Where's the lie? Where's the lie? This is how I said the white liberal, who is really the puppet master operating this marionette in this tangled web of the Iron Triangle, they show you the contempt that they have for you because this is the guy that represents you. They will gladly pay someone as dumb and ignorant as Ben Crump to represent your interests. And the man can barely read. But he is celebrated. He is celebrated. So, with that said, let me grab this super chat. Black Pearl. Black Pearl said, I watched Crump try to read words on a paper in front of news journalists, and he really can't read. Well, there it is. I showed it. He's used as a plant for the Democrat Party. Many non-rich Black people are their puppets. Absolutely. Absolutely. Thank you so much for the super chat. I greatly appreciate your contribution tonight, and I echo your sentiments. I played that clip. You probably left that super chat before I played the clip of him demonstrating his wonderful literary and oratory skills. Struggling to read, but this is their guy. So here's what I will say. There is a midterm political utility that is being exercised here. And the entire narrative that I've demonstrated from Al Sharpton to Ben Crump to even in the clip that I showed in my video earlier today from Jasmine Crockett, what they accomplish with this narrative is they have to connect this completely unrelated and unresolved local death. They have to connect it to Donald Trump because the goal is to encourage distrust of law enforcement in general. Then they have to portray interracial relationships as dangerous. You can never be too sure, them whites, maybe we shouldn't be trying to have our friends, our children be friends with them because, they can be dangerous. That is one narrative that they're trying to push. Henry, I see you. I'm going to holler at you in a little bit. They also, hold on. No, let me just get it now before I get distracted. Henry with Support Our Shield says, after being in northern Alabama all week, surrounded by the Iron Triangle of the National Baptist Convention USA. I needed this tonight. Let the Lord use you, sis. Amen. Praise Jesus. Thank you so much, Henry, for your super chat. Henry knows firsthand the Iron Triangle. I ain't gonna tell all his business, but he's intimately connected with that tangled web of Democrat operative influence and infiltration in the largest Black Baptist denomination. And he has seen firsthand how they wield their power and control these already morally compromised pastors to do their bidding. But notice how their goal is to portray interracial relationships as dangerous. And much of this narrative also is done. They have to reactivate all of the collective racial fear. So before Obama, many of you remember, like, I don't really remember there being this much racial tension. Like, everybody kind of was just doing their own thing, getting along. You know, every now and again you might have something, but for the most part, this wasn't a thing. They have to make it a thing because, like I said, they have to reactivate the collective racial fear. They want you afraid. They want you to believe that no matter what you do, that there's always a racist white person looking to take you out. So you have to live in this constant state of fight or flight and be extra suspicious and teach your kids this. And I want you to come back home. I don't want you to bury me. I don't want to bury you. I need you to bury me. And you like, ma'am, where is this happening? Where is the widespread assault where white people are actively chasing down, hunting, and just unaliving blacks? Where is that happening? It's not. It's not, but it doesn't stop them. One of my monitors just decided to die. It doesn't stop them from doing it. So here's what I am saying as I wrap this up. I done lost my train of thought. Oh, we're on the midterm political utility. The goal of what the Iron Triangle is doing, they have to depict these civil rights operations and organizations. They have to depict them as indispensable, meaning we need the National Action Network. We need, the NAACP, and we've got to give money to them because they're the ones on the front line fighting for your rights, fighting for your right to exist, because the white man is trying to take you out, and white supremacy is such an imminent threat that if you do not support these organizations, we can't protect you. Notice that the collective mindset. It's not you, individual Black man. You are the one that protects your family. You, individual Black person. You have the Second Amendment. You protect yourself. No. The civil rights organization is indispensable, and you need them because they're the ones that know how to organize, right? And really put the pressure on to ensure that the government protects you. This is exactly how we got here. This is exactly how Jim Crow was allowed to take such a stronghold for all those years. Is because y'all ain't gonna like this, so just brace yourself, and some of you gonna click out when I say it, but you're gonna be okay. I always asked myself, okay, you had slavery, you had the abolition of slavery, then you had Reconstruction. And when I looked at the demographical outlay of the South post-Reconstruction, you had 2 times more Black men than whites in South Carolina, about 50-50 equal in Georgia, Alabama, Mississippi, like population-wise, like there were a lot of Black people. And I always wondered, I said, How is it that these maimed, broke down, busted and disgusted, Confederate, racist white folk, how did you allow them to subjugate you again when it's more of you than them, and half of them was blind and crippled and jacked up from the war and broke? Yeah, don't forget that part. The reason why is because you hearkened and listened to the voice of so many, that black preacher who made you subservient, who wanted you to believe that it would be unchristian to protect yourself against someone trying to harm you. We need to answer the question. You're always looking to these civil rights organizations to protect you. What happened to you protecting yourself? What happened to you recognizing that government doesn't give you rights, and that your rights come from God, and that it is your responsibility to protect you? Because what I don't understand, if the government is so racist, and if this country is so racist, why do you want to give them power and look to them for protection? Are you crazy? Because here is where I will agree. Now, I don't agree that the government is racist and white people are just after you, but let's just go with that argumentation. You say, oh, the police are racist and the government is racist. Okay, fine, let's go with it. Why do you want to appeal to them to protect you? Do you not have the power of the Second Amendment used lawfully to assert your dominance and your freedom, and to defend it with your very life if necessary? But the civil rights organization, they want to weaken you, weaken your natural response to a threat, and say, no, we need the civil rights organization to stand in front of us and protect us. They got to march, and they got to whine and cry and beg and demand. I'm like, that explains why the South was subjugated again. You weren't subjugated because you were black. Oh, I'm about to make you mad. You were subjugated because you were weak. There, I said it. Now you go deal with it. You sleep and deal with that. Because there were too many black folks who were like, yeah, Jim Crow who? Come on this property and see what happens to you. Post the Civil War, during Reconstruction, you had 12 years where the federal government was occupying the South, trying to protect you from the whites. And eventually the government was like, look now, we done told y'all you can go out west. You could take advantage of the Homestead Act. Get away from these crazy white folks since they don't like you. You wouldn't leave. You wouldn't go out west to explore the possibility of what life would be like away from your oppressor. You wanted to stay with your oppressor. Eventually, freedom has to rise up in you, and you got to be willing to protect it. The federal government was like, look, we done occupied the South for 12 years. If y'all at this point ain't figured out, we have the Second Amendment. Listen, do you think that if freed blacks in the South started going, I got to be careful how I frame this because of the YouTube, started going and just straight annihilating people that threatened them, the federal government couldn't do anything about it? Because at that point, they were like, look, we can't protect you. You have to assert and protect yourself. I'll say it again in case you missed it. You were not subjugated because you were black. You were subjugated because you were weak. And relying on these same two-bit hustlers and these civil rights organizations, whenever you unite with them, you demonstrate just how weak you still are. Me and this family, the occupants in this home, I don't need National Action Network to do a darn thing for me. We got a whole lot of ARs and handguns to do all the dirty work for us. Come check me, boo. Why? Because this is America. And the freedoms that we lay claim to, it ain't something that you're invited to. It's something you join. Yes, you join it. If you're waiting for an invitation and for them to lay out a spread for you, like, please come and join. No, you just join it. Blood was shed, and this nation fought itself for you to lay claim to your American inheritance and your birthright. It is yours by birthright. But instead, you let these civil rights organizations convince you that the plight of the illegal immigrant is your plight, that the plight of the LGBT community is your plight. Now they're weaponizing the death of a young man with a promising future to make you afraid again so that you cower in fear because the white man, yeah, I'm mocking you. I am. Because you ain't subjugated because you're black. It's because you're weak. And if you don't quit with the weakness, they'll subjugate you again. Except this time, they don't really have to. Because you do it to yourself. Why? You keep voting for Democrats who actually put artificial weights in your way. They actually put them in your way to keep you from functioning in your freedom. So yes, it depicts the civil rights organizations as indispensable and discourages Black political realignment. What do I mean? I and so many other amazing content creators, we spend every day here on this Al Gore's internet. Oh, I don't know if it's Trump's internet now, somebody's internet. Using our platform and our voices and our influence to wake our people up. And we've exposed exactly who the Democrat Party is, their ideals, their platform, and the way that they subjugate you by way of their policies and practice. And you know what? It's working. So many people. There's nowhere that I don't go where people don't thank me for the labor and the work and the courage that you put in to wake people up. Keep doing what you're doing. Keep speaking the truth. Don't shirk back. I get the threats. I don't care. Your threats don't scare me. I'm going to speak this truth and I'm going to get it out if it's the last thing I do. Why? Because I know that there are people out there that have yet to hear this. And when they do, at first, it stings a little. It does. It doesn't feel good for you to hear that you were subjugated not because of your color, but because you were weak. Like, there's a cognitive dissonance that sets in. But once you get past that, you do feel some sort of kind of way. Because when I first heard it, I was like, ooh, I was like, that hurt. I felt shame. I felt a sense of embarrassment. And then once I reconciled that and moved past that, I said, oh, I know what I got to do now. Courage must arise, and I must be brave in the face of the foolishness, because you may have subjugated some of my people in the past, but you will no longer, because we're not weak. We're not ideologically weak. We're not spiritually weak. And we will no longer be politically weak by being beholden to all of the anti-God, anti-Christian policies that you keep pushing on to us and expecting us to accept it. So the realignment has been happening because Black folks have been jumping ship from the Democrat Party plantation. Once someone enlightens you and exposes you to what they've been doing to you all these years, you be like, you know what, you're right, because Republicans ain't been in power in my community. I've never seen one. Yet the roads are bad and the schools are terrible. And we have no infrastructure, no industries been attracted here. And they do. I see abortion billboards in my community all the time. They're always encouraging our young girls to kill their babies. And why do they keep trying to put our young men in a dress? Why they want us all embracing these sexual perverse proclivities and making us believe that it's acceptable and that it's righteous and that it's okay and that love is love and that all these different reimagined configurations of families are valid. The political realignment has been happening, and we've been waking people up, and their numbers and their power is waning. So what do? They got to get the operative. They got to get them out. They got to smoke them out and get the Avengers out to say, we need you. We need you to position Democrats as Black America's only protection. That's what all of this is all about. To cement in your mind that, you know what, I really was having second thoughts about these Democrats. I don't like how they try to make us dependent on the government and keep offering me free stuff when I like to work. Like, I like my job. I like looking at the fruit of my labor and my paycheck. I like overtime. I don't want government dependence, but that's all they can ever offer. Why do they assume that everybody wants free Medicare, free this? Only lazy people want all of this socialistic stuff. I heard Red Pill Brown Girl said socialism is for suckers. I said, that's my girl. I love it. Because she's so right. It's for suckers. It's for low achieving, lazy people that are accustomed to somebody else taking care of them. But the rest of us out here who are like, no, I'm not built for that. I like being rewarded for the amount of effort that I put into something. The harder I work, the more effort I work, the more ingenuity and creativity that I contribute to the value that I put into the marketplace. I want that. But the socialism, nah, that's for suckers. So this is why they must position the Democrat Party as your only hope. If you were even remotely thinking about giving the Republican Party a look-see, they squashed that. We can't. We have a racial situation down in the heart of the South. Surely you can't be thinking about voting for those racist white Republicans. And you're just like, you need help. You need help. I'm going to end with this, and I'm going to read it to you. I wrote this down as I was preparing for this show and thinking about what I wanted to present to you guys tonight. I wrote this down. They do not merely need Black voters to disagree with Republicans. They need Black voters to fear what might happen if they ever leave Democrats. That's it. That's the show. I really don't have anything else to say beyond that. I think I've done an exhaustive overview of all that the race hustlers are trying to turn this Nolan Wells case into. I've broken down 10 logical fallacies. I've identified them. I've defined them, and hopefully you'll be able to see them the next time they pull one out of their bag of tricks. But here's what I do want to leave you with. Your discernment should heighten, and your awareness to this foolishness should be more apparent. But I don't want you to lose sight on the biblical imperative to keep your eyes focused on Christ. All of this other stuff is merely a distraction that for some people who may be sensitive to a lot of this racial animosity because of something that may have legitimately happened to you in the past, maybe a white lady stepped on your foot one time and called you in, and you just, it hurt you so deep that you struggled to get over it, but then the Lord saved you and you put it out your mind, and then here comes the Ben Crumps and the Al Sharptons of the world to make you believe that, you know what? Maybe I was too quick to forgive that white lady that one time because racism is still among us. As if the sin of racism just is supposed to disappear. All other sins are going to stay with us through eternity till the Lord calls us home and gives us our glorified body. But the sin of racism, why is that the only sin that these anti-God, anti-Christian people believe that they can cure and fix with their man-centered solutions that are void of the gospel of Christ, which is the only one that gives us reconciliation between God and man and between each other? That's a question you need to ask. Why do they think that they can solve racism? I heard it once said that racism is kind of like the weather. Like you can't control it, but you guard your heart and you build a shelter around it. One way you build a shelter around it is with a gun. I mean, that's like a real practical way that you can be like, look, I don't want no problems with you. You don't want any problems with me. But we will have a problem, and I know how to solve it. You know, I'm just saying, I'm not inciting violence. No, that's not it. What I'm doing is I'm asserting myself and letting you know these are the terms and conditions in which we will engage. I'm a Christian. I will love you, give you the shirt off my back if you want it, but I will exercise my God-given right to protect me and my home and my property and the people who matter to me. If in the event you're feeling froggy and you want to leap, it's really that simple. And I'm sure so many out there understand that. I'm just trying to help you understand that we live in the greatest country that has ever existed, and it has afforded us so many liberties and rights that we can exercise if we understand how they work. And one of them is the Second Amendment. Second Amendment solves so many things. It really neutralizes so many threats when exercised properly and lawfully. So, here's the last thing. Got some scriptures that I'd love for you guys to look up at your leisure. Proverbs 18:17, Exodus 23:1, and James 1:19. But the last thing I will say is that biblical justice does not begin with the most emotionally useful conclusion. Biblical justice requires, here are the elements that biblical justice requires: truthful witnesses, impartial judgment, and evidence. That is something that we've not seen revealed yet when it comes to this Nolan Wells tragedy, but the race hustlers, they speak around it as if we're not all waiting for it. So that's what I'd love to leave you guys with. It is the hour is late. I've been on for 2.5 hours and 4 minutes. So I'm going to leave you guys to ruminate and meditate on all the things that I've said tonight. I had an amazing live stream. I'm so glad that you guys have chosen to sit and engage in my little fireside chat that I prepared for you tonight. Tomorrow, Lord willing, we will not have a live stream. I just don't see how I'll be able to fit it in. I have a doctor's appointment and a hair appointment, and the hair appointment is later than usual. And by the time I get back, I'm just going to wrap it up, tie it down, and just go to bed. So maybe I will see you guys Saturday, and maybe we'll do a live stream on Saturday. But, I don't know. I have to double check. I want you guys to tune in tomorrow to the John Amachuku show. I was able to join his show today. We pre-recorded it, and I believe it's going to be released tomorrow. So I want you guys to go over to his channel and check it out. An amazing brother in the Lord and content creator. If it doesn't come out tomorrow or whenever I get it, I will upload it to this channel, and then we can all sit and watch it together. I had so much fun. As you know, I like to clown. So, we were clowning. I was trying not to make the interview so serious and stoic. I kind of just, wanted to have some fun, yet also honoring God and glorifying him in the process. So until next time, you guys, stand firm, stay bold, and above all else, stay unshakable. Grace and peace. I'm April Chapman.
And I'm Vince Everett Ellison. There's a victim narrative here in the United States of America that says you have no control over your lives, no control over your agency. And they're basically saying that you're an animal, that you're a slave. I don't believe that. I don't think it's ever been the case. As an heir of Jesus Christ, and as a child of God, I cannot be oppressed. I cannot be a victim. I do not think I am, nor do I think that any American ever has been, or any person. Even when it comes to slavery, I believe, and I think they hold true, that slavery was a choice. You know why I know? Because people are choosing to be slaves now. So I'm making a documentary to debunk the myth that any human being or any American is held under bondage without their permission, even if they have to kill or give their lives to be free. Freedom is a choice, and slavery is a choice also.
We're asking you to partner with us. We are here. We have begun filming Slavery is a Choice, and it's an incredible documentary that outlines Vince's argument to prove to the world that slavery is absolutely a choice. I've partnered with him in the executive producer position, and we are appealing to our audience, you guys, those who watch us faithfully every single week, to help us bring this film to market. We've begun a crowdfunding campaign, and we're going to link the opportunity in the description below for you to partner with us and give any amount to help us bring this project to market. Slavery is absolutely a choice, and we know that slavery is a choice because we're choosing it today with many of the decisions that we continue to make to our own detriment. So we're hoping that you guys will partner with us, and we want to bring this film to market in summer of 2026. So click the link down below. And I'm April Chapman.
And I'm Vince Everett Ellison. Freedom is a choice, but in order to be free, you must be brave. In order to not be a slave, you must believe in Jesus Christ. So believe in freedom, believe in courage, be courageous, assist us in this project, and let's set and make other people free by being true blue Americans, true blue patriots, true blue Christians, believing in ourselves and believing in the future ahead. Thank you.